evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Degreelessness. I'm your host, the immortal Shanghai Pete, the people's champion, 21st century digital boy, and the last Boy Scout. Looks like the hyperbolic hyperbole is back in town, so we've got a lot of hilarious stuff to talk about, courtesy of yet another stupidly predictable week of anti-consumer shenanigans from the games industry. It's time to get deep inside, people. First up, we do have time for a quick recap of the week. And yup, the gang is all here. COD devs being forced, or rather coerced, more likely, into taking culpability for the inexcusable state of Warzone. The Battlefield 2042 petition has topped about 130k SIG, so... wow. And also, sadly, it looks like people are still laboring under the tortured delusion that Ubisoft gives a flying fuck what their customers think. What a tragedy. None of that is very interesting, though. Industry gonna industry, after all. We're not surprised by any of that, and actually, I bet we can even guess what the outcome is going to be of those stories. Here goes. I'm going to predict the future. Watch. Nothing will be done, and no one will care. Warzone will continue to be garbage, Battlefield will continue being swept under the rug, and people will be encouraged to forget about it until, of course, it comes time to buy it again next year, and Ubisoft will continue to plow their customers right up the asshole with more predatory, exploitative, subhuman garbage that no one asked for. I know, it's amazing, right? It's a talent. I'm just a deadly mad prophet of the printed page. I have incredible powers and can see the future. It's truly amazing. On a slightly more interesting and less sarcastic tip, looks like CDPR is trying desperately again to get people to try Cyberpunk, and actually I think that's kind of cool. As I mentioned in my review, and a few times since probably, I thought Cyberpunk 2077 was pretty fucking awesome. I was lucky enough not to run into any game-breaking bugs, and my overall experience is relatively smooth, so I can enjoy it mostly unfettered. It's no secret, though, that that was definitely not the experience many or even most people had, to put it mildly. So, apparently on a quest for an actual redemption and not just a rhetorical one at the hands of legacy media, CDPR is still surprisingly trying to fix the game. Amazing, I know. Imagine not giving up on a game immediately after release just because it wasn't received as well as you expected. Crazy. 1.5 is the newest big patch though, and it seems people are perhaps enjoying it? Really? Wow. So that's good news for CDPR as well as anyone who still wanted to give that game a shot. Some of the fixes include tons of bugs, revamped driving, new police and NPC AI, new customization options, as well as an apartment real estate system, I guess, plus a ton more. If you want to see the full list, links in the description box down below. I fired it up for a few minutes the other day, and there seemed to be rather significant performance upgrade for me too, so that's all pretty dope. If you hated this when it first came out, I doubt this is going to change your mind. And if you had more fun complaining about it in subreddits than actually playing it when it first came out, this also will probably not change your mind. But if any of you are really still interested in checking it out, with all the new fixes, new features, performance upgrades, and new shit for next-gen consoles, might not be a bad time to do so. Oh, also, finally this week, looks like Nintendo is shutting down the eShop for both 3DS and Wii U because fuck you. Not that we expected anything better of them, of course, but still. Damn, yo. Like, and just as an aside here, while I agree on one hand, like, how much is it really costing them to keep the Wii U and the 3DS eShops up? Maybe it's a lot, but somehow I don't think so. Like, would it kill you to just let them fucking continue running for a while? Especially since you've been, maybe not Wii U's, but definitely 3DS's, you've been actively selling up until pretty recently. So I don't think it's a stretch to be like, hey, could you still keep this fucking shit on? But on the other hand, it's like, gee, how long ago did the fucking Wii U come out? And how many people bought that thing? Like, you're not expecting them to still support the Virtual Boy, are you? I don't know, like, it is kind of shitty, but at the same time, you kind of gotta call it quits at some point. Anyways, moving on. For our main story tonight, looks like the anti-SJWs ride again. Yup, what better way to celebrate the release of Horizon Forbidden West than with your average run-of-the-mill internet rantings by a guy who thinks women have beards? That's right, very exciting times. All your favorite grifters have rushed out of their hovels in places like YouTube, Twitter, and Reddit to decry the outrageous oppression that they've been suffering at the hands of a video game. Yep, more specifically, and incidentally even worse, a video game with a female protagonist. Oh no. Always eager to prove that they're just as insufferable as SJWs themselves, they're practically apoplectic at the release of the new Horizon game Forbidden West. Seems the main character, Aloy, is guilty of high crimes, the same severity as committed by many of your favorite candy-coated chocolates recently, not being hot enough. Uh-oh. And yes, I know the tip of this particular outrage bubble is actually a few months old at this point, but the beard hysteria plus the actual release of the game kind of brought it back into the news cycle a little bit, and I want to take that opportunity to make some points. The first being that I just want to laugh at this because it's fucking funny as shit, and I love when people throw temper tantrums about irrelevant nonsense on the internet, as evidenced by this channel. But the other point, and probably the more important one, I'll concede, is that I think it's a great example of the war on nuance that we're all perpetually and constantly fighting, whether we want to or not. As I mentioned in the past, I stopped covering things from an outraged anti-SJW angle long ago, once I realized that one, I was just playing into the whole distraction hate bait game as everyone else, and two, because to be honest, I was starting to sound like a whiny anti-SJW myself, and I knew that that kind of look would just undercut the sincere points that I really wanted to make about gaming. That being said, it doesn't make it any less frustrating that we still can't say basic shit like, hey, the people throwing these infantile fits are fucking retarded, but also say that, yeah, Aloy looks fucking stupid here. We still can't say that for a longtime fan, the plot of Last of Us 2 is kind of disappointing, but we also don't give a fuck who's having sex with who. Why is it still so unfathomable to simply point out that, yeah, both SJWs and anti-SJWs are equally predictable, insufferable, and obnoxious? Well, the simple answer is because, as we've said before, the culture war is nothing but a psyop designed to set people against each other so they ignore real issues in favor of fake ones that don't matter. And for the less simple answer, well, I guess I'm gonna ramble for about 10 minutes about that. So, many people are still very butthurt because of how Aloy has been rendered in the new Horizon Forbidden West game, including someone who's shocked and appalled at the knowledge that apparently women's skin isn't utterly and completely hairless. Really, yes, it's very crazy. But you're not surprised, are you?
Surprised, aren't you?
That, of course, is just how things are done now. But are they right? Is this a justifiable reason to shit your britches all over the internet? Well, I mean, yes and no. We're fair here, so let's talk about why these idiots are sort of right first. And to do that, well, let's pull up some examples. So, we've got old Aloy here, and we got new Aloy over here. I mean, like, yo. I can't lie, G. Is anyone trying to claim that this doesn't at least look like someone intentionally tried to make her less attractive? It's just plain full of shit. I mean, look at it. She looks like fucking Garbo here. I mean, come on. And quite intentionally, too, I might add. All right, so we're clear. Moving forward, she definitely, unequivocally, without a doubt, 100%, looks pretty fucking ridiculous here, okay? Bad. Not good. All right. Now that that's out of the way, I think we can all agree that, yes, she looks far more objectively, traditionally masculine than in her previous iteration. Great, outstanding, it's all very fascinating. We've puzzled out that particular brain teaser. Aloy looks dumb now. Yes, great, okay, write it down. The people who think Aloy looks dumb now are just as right now as they were last year when this whole thing fucking first came out. Hooray. So, credit where it's due. Now, here's the question, though. Is this fucking stupid? Yes, absolutely. It's also fucking stupid. This is fucking stupid, and being upset about it makes you fucking stupid as well. Okay, so that's why they're right. Admittedly, to anyone interested in being honest, Aloy looks pretty fucking stupid now, at least in the screenshots that are floating around and stuff. But now you might ask, Shanghai Pete, why does being upset about this make you stupid? Didn't you just say that you agree and she does look bad? Yep, and I do agree. She does look bad. But here's the thing. Who fucking cares? If you're not gonna buy Forbidden West, there's plenty of actual substantive reasons not to. Maybe you don't want to support Sony. Maybe you don't agree with some of the workplace practices of Guerrilla Games. Maybe a reviewer you trust mentioned some issues with gameplay that concern you. Maybe you don't like the PS5 controls. Whatever. But again, I'm preaching to the choir here. Y'all know this. I don't need to explain this stuff to any of you guys. The important point here, other than allowing me to rant about these idiots for a few minutes, is to point out how similar the effect of both SJWs and their anti-SJW counterparts are. How little has changed over the years, and how they both do nothing but serve the agendas of the access media money that's manipulating. It's the same in the larger culture war as well and its influence on politics, but no need to get anywhere near that. Perhaps maybe you'd like to see a specific example illustrating precisely how little has changed over the years, and how both groups of these clowns are all still the same, a distinction without a difference. Well, sure, we can even use the same franchise. Remember that when Horizon Zero Dawn first came out, there was a controversy back then too. But that time, it was the complete opposite group of retards. Back then, people were whining because they thought Aloy's hairstyle and appearance was cultural appropriation. Yeah, sounds pretty fucking stupid, right? So how much different from these guys do you suppose the people whining about her not being quote-unquote hot anymore sound to the rest of us? Correct, not different at all. And why? Because they both matter the same amount in terms of how fun the game is. But more importantly, they both have the same effect on the wider market. They generate outrage and bait for hate clicks while simultaneously distracting people from larger, more relevant and important issues. Yes, believe it or not, it doesn't actually really matter what you're having a juvenile outburst on the internet about, as long as you're having it. It'll generate revenue and distraction for the people with money that are manipulating you, and it doesn't matter if they're anti-SJWs, SJWs, corpos, devs, or publishers. So, just in case there was any confusion, I hope that clears it up. Y'all are just as bad as each other. Not only hypocritical morons, but also just a pack of whiny little hoes, too.
You act like a little bitch right now.
Now, believe it or not, there's actually an even funnier angle to all this dumb shit. As it so often does, this silly little nerd fight over how hot the video game character should or should not be spilled over and attracted even larger audiences. Eventually, it caused enough ruckus to garner a response from the game director. According to N4G.com, when the developer was questioned as to why they made the main character so unattractive, they responded that the director felt that the feminine look for the professional model didn't portray the strength that they wanted to demonstrate for the heroine. Further, the team allegedly decided that the original model portraying Aloy looked like she would cry if she broke a nail. Oh well, tisk tisk tisk, can't have that, can we? Nothing like using one stereotype to fight another, am I right? But who's correct here? Is it the director, who I'm sure out of nothing but a sincere but perhaps overdeveloped sense of altruism thought it should be the noble quest of the developer to take it upon themselves to decide just what specifically should define femininity in games? A standard from which there can be no deviation, neither imagined or implemented. There is only one right answer to the question of what makes something feminine in a game, and Guerrilla Games has thoughtfully provided that correct answer. There's a word for that kind of shit, actually, it's called dogma, but anyways, I digress. Or is it the heroic, bearded, fedora-clad grifters who just can't stand the sight of anything that doesn't give them a little chub? Well, it won't surprise you that the answer is neither, because they're both fucking retarded. And why is that? Well, maybe some of you are ahead of me here, but that's because this is a quote from over 3 years ago talking about the first Horizon game and not this one. And that's what is truly depressing and dispiriting about all of this. It's still all the fucking same. 5 years later, 3 years previous, 2 years from now, the same tricks are all still working. Same outrage is still fooling everybody, whether or not it's a few months ago and they're whining about her chin, a few weeks ago and someone thinks she has a beard, or it's years ago and someone thinks that her haircut is somehow cultural appropriation. They're all still the same idiots, still doing nothing but helping the monstrous corporations that run this industry drive it further into the fucking ground. I mean, there's nothing wrong with hating shit, y'all, but you gotta hate it for the right reasons. Oh, and also, incidentally, it seems like Horizon Forbidden West is actually kind of cool, so I didn't really like the first one. I tried to play it, I couldn't really get into it, but if you did, and you're looking forward to this, yeah, it looks like it's probably pretty good, so. Sorry, incel women beard haters, you lose this time. Alright, that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. We love you today. We love you all the way. Hope y'all had fun today. This video may have been a tad self-indulgent, and even though I stopped covering stuff from this kind of angle a while ago, and for good reason, I think it's important to check back in on it every once in a while, just as kind of a reminder that yes, it is still just as stupid and self-disenfranchising as it ever was. Don't be fooled, my G's. Oh, and lastly, if you think Horizon Forbidden West looks fucking cool, go play that shit. Remember, February has actually been a pretty great month for games so far. We also got Lost Ark and Dying Light 2 earlier this month, and then next week, Elden Ring and FF6 Pixel Remaster. It's not all doom and gloom, bros.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down.